So Eoin, tell us, where have you been?
Well, I'm currently in Langton's at the moment in Kilkenny, which of course was the place that served up Tommy Welsh's goujons down through the years that were the nutritionists behind the 4 in a row and subsequent 2 in a rows. Over the last little while I've been kind of travelling around the county. We'll bring you loads of stuff over the course of the next few hours. We were speaking to Dave O'Neill, who is the chairman of Greg Ballycallan, who is a Limerick man, a little bit later on. We were speaking to Dick O'Gorman, a farmer that Tommy Welsh actually recommended speaking to as well. We sat down for a cup of tea with him. We'll bring that to you in a little while. Eddie O'Connor is a former Kilkenny captain. We sat down with him as well, and we'll play out a piece with Kilkenny Elvis in just a moment. But before we do that, Ashton, I just want to give you a sense of what the Kilkenny people is actually saying. Interestingly, on the front page, you may have Kilkenny supporters on their wall looking ahead to the weekend. But on the back page of the Kilkenny people, it is not hurling at all. It is football fever, which dominates proceedings. The junior championship winners have managed to hog the headlines. That being said, they do have an absolutely fantastic supplement in the middle, which is about 1 billion pages, and I love the front cover of it. Star Wars, A New Hope. And this is an interesting angle on it all. A New Hope. Is Kilkenny winning this weekend a new hope, or is it actually a realisation that the Death Star was infallible all along and Darth Vader is alive and well and kicking? It's interesting that they've gone for that angle. I've certainly, as we'll do this over the next little while, and when we get to our quick picks, I've been kind of swept away by the quiet optimism that seems to have existed in Kilkenny over the last 24 hours. They're very, very persuasive people when they play down their chances. Let's just put it like that. But we'll get to that in a little while. Miles Kavanagh is where we're going to start this morning. He is a man who lives in the city centre of Kilkenny here. He is a massive, massive Kilkenny fan. We're going to show you around the front garden of his house in this video. It is decorated beyond all belief. The thing about Miles Kavanagh is that he is also a massive Elvis Presley fan, and he is one of Kilkenny's foremost Elvis tribute artists. So here's how our conversation went.
Would you believe it? Elvis said it to his fans because they were screaming at him, "You're the king." He said, "There's only one king, the Lord God Jesus Christ."
Do you not think Henry has a level above him?
No, well, Henry is the king as well, but he's not the king anymore since he left and went to Galway. You could be walking down the street there now. One could be dressed as Elton John, and another could be dressed as Rod Stewart, and people say, "Hi, Rod. Hi, Elton." Well, if you're dressed as a king, say, "Elvis, come on, you get a picture." "Of course, ma'am, you get a picture, baby. I love you, honey. I love you too. You see the movie, baby?" "I saw the movie, honey. You look well, Elvis. Thank you very much."
Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of relationship that people have with you that they think is Elvis.
Actually, I mean, I can't walk down the street without people shouting out the car, "Go on the king, go on the king. Are we going to do it on Sunday?" "Of course we can." Limerick will be all shook up. They'll be staying in the Harper Hotel and they'll be crying in the chapel. Elvis's great-great-great-grandfather came from Hackettstown, County Carlow. So we have Irish connections like with Elvis. And there's an Elvis Presley grave in Hackettstown that someday I'll probably go down and see can I find it. Because a couple of years ago, one of the locals, this car pulled up, hard car, and this lovely lady got out, she all dressed up. She said to him, and guy sat in the front driver's seat. He looked like Elvis, he spoke like Elvis, he talked like Elvis. And they said, "Sure, we're looking for a grave. There's a Presley grave here." "Yeah, ma'am, it's up in the graveyard. Could you show me? Could you show me?" And the man said, "I guarantee," he said, "it was Elvis." He said, "Elvis never died," he said. Because we were in Graceland in 2006. We actually saw him looking out the window. We went back into security. We said, "Elvis is alive. He never died."
Yeah, I'd be 90% sure you're correct.
Well, I guarantee you, would you believe it? We actually believe that he faked his own death.
What age is he now?
He would be 1935 to this year, 2022. He would be what? He would be 84, 85, yeah, 84. It would be 85. If we can subtract that, 35 from 22. 87, sorry, 87. And we reckon he's still alive, and we reckon he came over to Hackettstown to look for his roots.
If you're ever at an Elvis convention or a gathering of various Elvis tribute artists, do you ever look around and think that could be him?
Well, funny enough, now that you said it, we were in Vegas one year. Myself and my wife went over to Vegas in 2008. We actually thought it was Elvis.
Probably was. Like, did he look like him?
The wife said, he spoke like him, he talked like him. And the wife said, you know something? She says, I actually think that's Elvis, she says.
Can I ask you a question? If you had a choice between two of these things happening, you wake up on Sunday, say you lie in a little bit, and you wake up in the afternoon, and you wake up to one of these two pieces of news. A, Kilkenny have won the All-Ireland, or B, it has been confirmed Elvis is alive. Which one of those two situations would you rather see arise?
Wow, do I have to pick one? I just can't pick, I can't pick the two, no. The All-Ireland. I'm sorry, Elvis, but I'm sorry. The All-Ireland to us is just, it's in our hearts. I know the King is the King and I love the King, but the All-Ireland, to win an All-Ireland is just, my God, it's like winning the lotto. I'd rather win an All-Ireland and then wake up again and say, yeah, the King is alive.
Well, I think we both know that the King is really alive, you know, somewhere.
It's hard to know. I mean, I'd love if it came out, if it came out that the King was alive, that it was all a big, he faked his own death.
What does Elvis think of the current Kilkenny team?
Well, I think they're brilliant. I swear to God, I think Cody's a god. In Kilkenny, if we meet Brian Crody, we don't say, hiya Brian, we just genuflect, because we just met Jesus. And this is the way Brian is. And he's a fierce, nice fella. Oh my God, you couldn't. I mean, on Sunday, I'll go over to Langton's, I'll put the suit on, I'll walk in and I'll sing, it's the wonder of Brian. And he'll smile, he'll say, go on the cats. And I go around the town beeping a horn if we win. If we lose, God knows what we'll do. I don't know. I'd probably be staying at the Harper Hotel or crying in the chapel.
Very well played.
I'll do a little song for Brian Cody, who is my best friend and a gentleman. His birthday was there last week. It's called A Wonder of Brian. Oh, no one else can understand you when everything he does is right. He gives us hope and inspiration. He gives us strength to carry on. He's always there to lend a hand in everything we do. That's the wonder of Brian.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
What an absolute character. Oh my God. We just genuflect when we see Cody.
Yeah. I mean, it's what other thing are you supposed to do? I guess when you see Brian Cody, that guy, Miles Gavin, is an extraordinarily popular man. I was told to come back at a later point when I first arrived yesterday afternoon because there was simply too much media at his house.
Oh wow! And so is his whole house decorated inside as well?
Inside is mostly an Elvis shrine. Outside is Kilkenny. Quite a trippy Kilkenny setup. Like there are some strange, like as you saw in the video, there's like Teletubbies and very strange kind of references that I didn't really get out in the front garden. But it's very interesting. You could spend like an hour there looking through all the different ornaments he's got set up in the black and amber.
And you asked him a tough question: would he rather meet Elvis or win the All Ireland? He paused, but in the end, he went for the All Ireland.
He did. I guess that's probably just the instant gratification. It's coming this week, you know, and I think he's obviously leaned into the conspiracy that Elvis is alive anyway. So I think he can have both in that conversation, I think.
Brilliant. And who else were you speaking to then?
Okay, so yesterday I was told by Tommy Welch actually to give this guy a call. This is a fella called Dick O'Gorman. He is a farmer who lives just outside Piltown in County Kilkenny. He was actually featured in an Aldi ad a few years ago as one of the farmers in one of their ads talking about beef. And he is a big hurling man. He's also a massive racing head, as a lot of people in Kilkenny are. And we got talking about hurling, we got talking about racing, but he just starts off here by telling us a little bit about his family.
I have 3 children, 3 girls and a boy. He and myself are married to a Glenmore woman. Glenmore blood, like a fella used to say down the road, you couldn't beat it. Mikey Nowlan, last of mercy, and a great friend of mine. And the 3 girls then got married, and they're married into Hurling. Hurling is their God, Hurling. They love Hurling, the women. And the young fella didn't hurl, but he trained horses. And he was very successful at it, but he's working for a man now called Max Morris, and his wife down the road, they have a stud farm. And he's fat.
This is a big racing area here as well. That's the one thing we should say.
Yeah, big racing area here. Aidan O'Brien started down the road. I started with him, actually. I gave 10 years with Aidan on the road with the horses and doing the galloping, looking after him the best I could, started him in the best way possible. But there was no need to start Aidan. Aidan started himself.
He's not doing too badly.
No, not doing too badly. Great, very successful individual. Great family as well. Joseph is down the road here now where Aidan started, and Donica is outside Ballydoyle there, up the road a bit from training there as well. Very, very successful family. The Crowleys, where they started off, Joseph, lots of mercy on Joseph, he's gone too. And Sarah was there, she was the key woman behind the whole setup, great woman and a great family.
You've obviously, when you talk about the Black and Amber, seen quite a bit during your days. You've been going to Kilkenny matches for how long at this point?
Well, I was going to matches since back, I'll tell you, I was with my father at a match in Dublin one day, or in Kilkenny, and Kilkenny were playing Dublin. And I'll always remember it, sitting on the seat above in the Nolan Park, and the Dublin team. They were a great team at the time now, but I was very young. And there were two lads playing with them, two little baldy men, but they were black hair on them like sheep, and they were called bootmans. They were brilliant hurlers, outstanding ball players, fast, great men, and the two Foleys, Lar Foley and Des Foley in the middle of the field. They played Munster, they played Leinster, football and hurling. They were legends, great men. But there were a man playing that day stuck out in my mind, and it was unbelievable how he stuck in my mind all these years. He was the first skillful, great player that I saw, and he always an outstanding hurler. His name was, he was a Tullahoe man as well. He was Sean Classy. He was a brilliant player, brilliant, outstanding hurler. And he went on to win All Irelands, and yeah, that was part of the whole history of that going back.
Can we go back? You mentioned Eddie Kerr there a moment ago. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to watch him in the flesh, year in, year out?
Yeah, great thrill. Fantastic time. We used to go to Croke Park that time. Well, all them early years, we get the train above in Kilkenny. A crowd, we'd be picking the team for the train the night before. And we'd be in the pub. And we'd be saying, you going. And next thing we'd arrive with about 10 or 12 of us. And we'd hit off on the train. Mighty crack. Mighty. But the Kerrs, the Purses, the Delaney's, them boys, the Hendersons, well, they were serious men. They didn't care. They didn't mind about big days or quiet days or any other. Every day was the same to them. They were absolutely brilliant. On the day, though, Billy Fitzpatrick there, from the corner flag, I see him one day in Croke Park, from the corner flag, he scored points. Unbelievable stick work. Unbelievable. And yeah, Kerr was brilliant hurler. Fantastic speed. He had everything. He had speed, skill, stuff. Everything was in him. Then you go to the Carey boy. The boy of the Careys, DJ. What a legend. The whole place, you'd meet people from the county final in Kilkenny. You could meet a lad from Carlow, or you could meet him from Port Leash, or you could meet him from anywhere in the country. Come to see Carey. Carey was one of the greatest of all time. I suppose maybe the greatest, but then you had the Shefflins, Henry, King Henry. I knew when he was only a child buying cattle off his father, Henry. And great family, the Shefflins, great people, great hurling people, great memories of them lads. Then, I suppose, you'd go on to the present day. That's what you want to hear about today, is the Hurling Sunday. This is going to be the challenge. This is the biggest of it ever put in front of a Kilkenny team. You have a crowd coming from Limerick. Some of the greatest athletes ever was. They're big men, strong men. They're able to hurl. They have speed, they have skill, and they have the money behind them, which is more important. They have J.P. McManus, one of the greatest racing legends of his time. That man say, do this, do that, they'll do it. And Kiley have him backing him as well. Would Kiley and that outfit, they're going to be some team to topple. They have the skill, they have the ignorance too. They are big ignorant men, and they'll go. But they're all small little point in it. Have they the hurling? Have they the skill of the boys? The boys will be there. They'll be a good team. They're a good team. They're up with the best of them now. And I'll talk about the legend. I'll give him me number one now, that he's the best I ever saw. That's T.J. Reid.
The best ever?
Best ever. He's a man, played with bad teams in Kilkenny, carried them on his back, do the same thing every day, get some of the greatest scores ever scored. I see him in Kilkenny one day, and he scored a point from 80 yards out over his shoulder, out looking, went over the black spot. There was a man beside me called Ned Welsh of Piltown. I was talking to him yesterday. The coal man, we called him. He was sitting beside me, he turned around, Dickie said that only one man can do that, and that's T.J. Reid. T.J. Reid is one of the greatest of them all. And Eddie Kerr said on the paper one day, he could be the greatest that ever got all. And I was going into Thurles, and I met Kerr. And I said to him, Eddie, what about the statement that he was going to be one of the greatest? Well, says Kerr, you have another 2 years to prove it. A couple of years more, and he will be the greatest. That's 5 years ago. He's after doing a lot of hurling since, and no doubt about it. Sunday, he'll be there again. He'll be one of the big men they'll have to watch. For tremendous striker of the ball, brain. He makes it look easy. Good hands. One of the best I saw, T.J. Reid. And I believe that Kilkenny will give Limerick, I don't know will they beat him. I don't know will they beat him now. But I'll tell you one thing, they'll give it a good try. Brilliant men. They were. And we have them coming again, we have young lads coming there around in different parishes. They won the under 21 this year. Couple of good young lads on it, a couple from Windgap there, and a few good young lads. I'll tell you one thing, Windgap is only up the road from us here. There'll be plenty. One time, that man from Clare, Brian, and not Brian Lohan, the other man there, he was the manager there one time.
Davy?
No, he was on television.
Loughnane?
The Gel Loughnane said, one time someone said to him, so there'll be a lot of good young lads coming around the country. They'll rise up again. They'll different lads go. Limerick got him. And Gerald answered back, and he said, listen to me, he said, do you think they won't be coming in Kilkenny? They're a conveyor belt there, he said. They're always coming off it. They'll be in Kilkenny too. Yeah. That's why it's such a great county for hurling, because they know nothing else. We won a football match the other day now, which was unbelievable. They won a junior football All-Ireland. And most of the lads were from Mulnavat on it. And I suppose football in Kilkenny, well, for years and years, you know how football was in Kilkenny. We don't play soccer in Kilkenny. We play a bit, nothing great. Hurling. Hurling is our religion. And that's our game. And if we're bet Sunday again, what difference? We'll have them coming again.
Can I ask then, just to wrap up, how would you feel on Sunday if Kilkenny were climbing the steps of the Hogan stand?
I'd be very proud. Probably to see a Richie Reid going up now will be a big honour, because in fairness to the Reids, their father before him, and as a matter of fact, his grandmother was a first cousin of mine. She was Mahony Kelgrave, Jenny Mahony, and married a man called Paddy Reid, Kiltarkin. And he brought all them young lads his own young lads, and then TJ's Sean's young lads. He started all them and load them into the car and bring them on. And I tell you one thing, the Richie Reid, best club hurler in Ireland at the present time. There's no doubt about that. He is the best. And to see him going up the steps will be a big honour. Big honour for the county. And I'm Stephanie's family. And Sean, a great friend of mine, Sean Reid, we went, bought a lot of cattle up with Sean. I used to buy old cattle in the country that time, bought all his cattle, and we returned the compliment here. We were feeding cattle ourselves. TJ was a rep for Conley's, and we bought the nuts off of TJ. And TJ come in and have the old cup of tea and the chat, and a lovely man, a lovely fella, and best of luck to him with his new wife and baby. And the very best of luck to him. I hope he'll many happy days because he gave us great days.
Dick O'Gorman there, a local farmer in Kilkenny. Owen, you definitely can feel the emotion, the passion. When you asked the question, how would you feel to climb the steps of the Hogan stand, you could see he got a lump in his throat before he answered.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the number one man in the TJ Reid fan club as well. It's interesting whenever you speak to somebody who's seen hurling for decades and decades and decades. I don't know that they often go for the player who maybe isn't currently playing. That I think maybe we were all sort of guilty of recency bias. It's really interesting that he kind of went for TJ Reid as the greatest hurler he's ever seen. And I think that conversation was maybe something that we had more a few years ago. That's topic around TJ, and I'm not sure why that was. It seems that conversation has kind of drifted away over the last couple of years, maybe because Limerick have just become more dominant, and when we have conversations around the greatest of all time, it can only involve Limerick because they're the only team who've won All Ireland over the last 2 years. So I just think that if they win on Sunday, now this isn't something that the Kilkenny players are thinking about at all, but if they win on Sunday, I think that TJ Reid conversation about his place in the pantheon of greats just explodes back into the mainstream, and people will immediately start saying where does he actually rest in terms of the greats, and people put him right up against Shefflin and DJ Carey immediately if he manages to get the job done. And I think that Clare performance was just a reminder of what he can do, what he can absolutely still do. Nobody is suggesting that TJ Reid has gone anywhere.
No, absolutely not. It is nice that we're actually talking about him as one of the greatest as a current player, because as you said, sometimes a lot of people can look to the past and talk about former players, but he's just been unbelievable. He's in the form of his life, and I think if Kilkenny are to do it on Sunday, he has to be in that top form that he's been in the last few games. Absolutely. And so you've been to Limerick and Kilkenny now. So I suppose, what is the mood like in each camp? Who's, I suppose, most confident, or what's the feeling you're getting?
There definitely seems to be this feeling in Kilkenny that, you're sure let Limerick go and put their bunting up and let them get excited and let them get very, very confident about this game this weekend. Like when we hear from Eddie O'Connor a little bit later on, you'll definitely get that sense that maybe Limerick, there's a sense of, they're still trying to appreciate being in All-Ireland every year, that they maybe feel that this is a team that's going to give them the greatest times of their life, whereas Kilkenny, it kind of feels, we're back in an All-Ireland, no big deal. And as underdogs, there's a certain danger to having a conversation with Kilkenny people, because there is a similarity with Kerry people where they just like to downplay their chances that little bit, even though we all saw what they did in that semi-final against Clare. They're a pretty awesome unit when they're in top form.
I think that's the scariest thing of all, that Kilkenny are going in as underdogs. I think that is brilliant for them. They love that. They're going to relish that, and that's what's most scary for Limerick.
Yeah, I do think though that Limerick have got this incredible ability to not let that sort of stuff impact their course. Like I think last year we were maybe having the same conversation, about Cork being an underdog, getting that big win against Kilkenny after extra time in the semi-final, and we thought, that's the dangerous animal that maybe Limerick would be a little bit vulnerable to, and it just didn't materialise that way. The big difference here though is just Cody, and the fact that there are All-Ireland winners in this team. Getting up the hill the first time is a really challenging thing to do, and I think the Waterford and Cork aspects of the last couple of years were deer in the headlights sort of thing, as in they had to get up the mountain the first time, whereas this Kilkenny team have so many All-Ireland winners in there, not so many, but a handful of All-Ireland winners in there, and it kind of feels like even those that don't have All-Ireland medals have already got them, and it kind of feels that they already have that experience for whatever reason. Maybe it's just the jersey, maybe it's just Cody, but that psychological aspect is a really interesting one.
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
I tell you now, it was the greatest moment of my life. The day I captained Kilkenny in '93, and it's hard to believe now that it's nearly 30 years ago. Like, I was lucky enough to go on the Kilkenny team in 1990, and we played Tipperary in the All-Ireland final. '91 we were beaten. 92 we played Cork in the final, we beat them, and 93 we beat Galway in the final, and I was lucky in 93 that I was captain, and yeah, as I said, it was the greatest moment of my life.
Those moments in the 1990s, when it sticks out to you at this point, what set that Kilkenny team apart from the others?
I'd say a lot of it was down to the management at the time was Ollie Welch, and I would compare Ollie maybe to be in the same bracket maybe as Brian Cody, even though he mightn't be as ruthless. Ollie at the time, came in there after when Pat Henderson stepped aside, and Kilkenny needed rebuilding, and Ollie went around the county and picked up players from junior clubs, intermediate clubs and Kilkenny and senior clubs, and he moulded us all into being a great team. And at the time we had a mixture of experience between players like Christy Heffernan and Liam Fennelly, and we had young players coming through like my brother Willie and DJ Carey and all this, so we had a very, very good mixture, and Ollie was a wonderful man and a great manager, and he knew how to get the best out of us.
It seems like a pretty stupid question, but you saw him up close and personal. You were there when he burst onto the scene. DJ Carey, he's often held up in regard that no other Kilkenny player can hold. Why is that from your perspective?
To me, DJ was the greatest player that was ever born. He was a wonderful, wonderful player, and I think our game plan at the time, Ollie told me one night in Nolan Park, was plan A was to get the ball into DJ, plan B get the ball to DJ, plan C was get the ball to DJ, and I said to Ollie one night, why is the one plan the whole time? Well, sure, Eddie, he's your best player. He said, if you can feed your best player as quick as you can and as often as you can with the ball, he'll win the matches for you. And how right he was. Do
you think that's still a tactic that a lot of people employ today?
Actually, to me, the tactics going today, there's too much old codology going on in hurling, and it is very, very much going down the road of football where, you're zonal marking and you're playing balls over and back the field, and it's not very nice on the eyes, to tell you the truth, to watch hurling now compared to there's no really hurling now off the cuff where it was in the 80s and 90s. The hurling that time was off the cuff, and to me now it's all kind of programmed hurling now, and as I said, at times it can be a hard watch, and I'd much prefer watching the games back in the 1890s, not because I was playing myself now or anything that way, but I thought the hurling that time was even a lot better than the hurling today.
And would you say that's the vast majority of teams today that you don't like watching?
Yeah, it's not, because there's no, as I said, there's no off the cuff type of hurling. That time, if you got a fast ball into the full forward line, the full forwards, whether it was Liam Fennelly, Tom Dempsey or Nicky English, the game was finished in a blink. Now it's all sweeper systems. You have 7, 8, 9 men behind the ball. You have numerous kind of, scrums around the middle of the field, and it's dog eat dog out there. But as I said, there's no off the cuff type of hurling anymore. Very, very rarely now you see a player hitting the ball on the ground compared that time when you had Johnny Pinkett and all them, Johnny Dooley of Offaly. They were wonderful stick men and all great ground stroke hurling, and and as I said now, even the hurling these days, while I enjoy it a lot, there are times when it can be hard to watch.
What about if you were to be inserted in today's game? Do you think that you'd be a bit of an outlier as a man marker? Do you think it's kind of so systemic at this point, or systematic, that you don't actually get the opportunity to go one-on-one too often with an opposition man?
Yeah, well, I always felt like my priority as a back, and what I don't like about hurling now is there's too many easy scores being got. When I was brought up in Glenmore, my priority was always to be a John Henderson type corner back, was at all costs stop my man from scoring, and I felt if I held the corner forward scoreless that I'd done a great job. And with the exception of Cathal Barrett at Tipperary and Mikey Butler at the moment with Kilkenny, I don't see that out there. The trademark now for defending is you hit every second ball, let the corner forward score score 4 or 5 points and you clear 9 or 10 balls, and it looks like exhibition type hurling then compared to what it was that time. You go back to the 80s there, where you had Brian Cody playing full back for Kilkenny, you had Dick O'Hara on the other corner, and you had John Henderson, and you know, without being too abrupt, like they'd break your neck in order not to leave you score, like, and Ger Henderson the same way, their centre back, and go on to the likes of the Mick Jacobs of Wexford and all them, and Pat Hartigan. You know, that time hurling was, but stop your man from scoring. Like now, it's kind of a free for all. It's kind of exhibition hurling a lot of the time. You score a point, we score a point. You score a goal, we score a goal. And I think a lot of the good defending has gone out of the game.
So the hurlers aren't necessarily better; they're just getting more time.
No, I don't think the hurling is any better now compared to what it was in the 80s and 90s, and I'd argue that with anyone. You go back to the 90s, Clare won an All-Ireland, Offaly won an All-Ireland, Kilkenny won an All-Ireland, Wexford won an All-Ireland, Tip won an All-Ireland. The hurling was ultra competitive, so it was that time, but to me now it's not near as competitive and the way, while fitness levels have increased 100%, like, to me, the hurling is not as good now as what it was back in the 80s and 90s. And you've also got to remember that time there was no round robin system. There was no back door that time. It was you got one Sunday to get it right. And, you know, we won 2 All-Irelands out of 3 in 91, 92 and 93. And had we got the back door, I'd say in 94, 95, we could have easily went on and won 3 or 4 in a row. But the back door wasn't there at that time. And, like, while hurling is still at a very, very good place now, to me, it wasn't near as good as what it was back then.
Are they more skilled today?
I wouldn't say more skilled, no. If anyone tells me like players are more skillful than the likes of Martin Storey or Nicky English or DJ Carey, that any of them players out there today are as skillful as them, it beggars belief really with me. No, I wouldn't think so. To me, they're a lot more fitter today, and they have recovery sessions, and they're training 6 and 7 nights a week. The game has probably gone a good lot faster, like, but are they any more skillful than the players? No, the players back then, to me, were better than any of the players, I think, playing today.
One of the other things I just wanted to ask you about is just this, maybe some of the talk this year was after the Limerick and Clare game about how Munster hurling was kind of on a pedestal and how it was possibly the best game of the year and the best game for quite some time. It feels as if Kilkenny have got some sort of joy off knocking that narrative out of the water a little bit, that they've got every chance of winning this weekend, that a Leinster champion has every chance of winning this weekend.
Yeah, to me, like a lot of hurling that was played there in Munster over the last number of years is overhyped, and there's a load of codwattle to tell you the truth, to tell you that Leinster hurling is way behind Munster hurling, and I don't believe any of that rubbish. Like, there's a lot of former players out there from Clare and Limerick telling everyone this was the greatest Munster final of all time. I watched that game, and while intensity levels were high and the standard of hurling was good, but it certainly wasn't the greatest of all time. I thought both sets of defences that day were poor. Both teams put up big scores, like, and as I said, you have a lot of former players out there. Like, there was, you know, in particular one former player from Waterford telling everyone all year, especially us here in South Kilkenny, that this is the greatest Waterford panel of all time, and if and when they win the All-Ireland, that he'd ride a horse naked down the quay of Waterford, like, and you know, it is maybe it is a donkey he should get, like, and you'd have a donkey on a donkey, because if that guy thinks like that you're going to win win All Irelands by playing the Munster ways, certainly that won't beat the teams in Leinster.
I get the sense that maybe teams who get ahead of themselves, who get a little bit carried away with their chances of winning an All Ireland, that's not very much the Kilkenny mentality.
No, the Kilkenny mentality has always been you go out on a Sunday, you do your best, and I suppose it's a bit like what Limerick are doing, like, and to me Limerick have been very, very good champions, if not great champions, over the last number of years, but I don't think they've beaten any of the Leinster teams in an All-Ireland final. Last year I would have to say Cork collapsed. I'd say the year before Waterford collapsed, but I don't see that happening with Kilkenny this Sunday, and I don't believe for a minute, as I said, that Munster hurling is way ahead of Leinster. Like, I think Kilkenny have every chance coming into Sunday's game, and while Limerick are favourites, they're favourites on what they've done in the past, and I don't think they're favourites on what they have done this year, because I'd say without doubt the best 35 minutes of hurling I saw this year was Kilkenny's first half performance in Clare player. And if Kilkenny bring a 70-minute performance like that, Limerick won't beat him next Sunday.
How is Brian Cody kept going for so long? Like that conversation we had a moment ago about how hurling has changed, and maybe you're saying that there's still so many basics that are so important. Do you think Brian Cody has actually allowed himself to change a little bit and allow new ideas to be formulated in his camp?
Yeah, I'd say, look, without a doubt, like I'd say, Brian has changed over the last 5 or 6 years. Like Kilkenny didn't achieve much with the exception of winning 3 in a row in Leinster. I think they were beaten in the last 2 semi-finals. That is not really acceptable in Kilkenny. I think since 2016, Brian has changed. And what I liked more so this year than other years, I like the Kilkenny panel. I think they have huge strength on the sideline. When you look at Conor Delaney, there is a very good sub for the full back line. I think you have Conor Fogarty or Cillian Buckley to come into the half back line. And when I go up front, I look at Walter Welsh, Richie Hogan, Richie Lahey. Most players, most of them players have gone any other team, and then throw in a young David Blanchfield there. And I think Brian has probably, maybe mellowed might be the wrong word, but I definitely think Brian has changed a bit in the last couple of years. Like, while he is still the same ruthless manager as ever, like I do think he has probably mellowed maybe a small bit.
Do you remember the early years of Brian Cody? Do you wish you could have played under him a little bit?
Yeah, I certainly would. Like, I was lucky enough in Glenmore that I played full back for Glenmore, and one match in particular I came on full forward and Brian was full back for James Stevens, and he kind of done a bit of David and Goliath job on me one night above in Hugginstown. And I remember a couple of years later, Brian was full forward for James Stevens, and I was after developing into a teak tough full back for Glenmore, and on this occasion I think I got the better of him. So I probably would have liked to have played under Brian. Whether I'd have lasted too long or not, I don't know, but I certainly I think Brian is what he is. Like, he's honest, he's fair, he's ruthless, he's tough. He has all the hallmarks of being the greatest manager of all time. But I think the one thing that sums up Brian is honesty. And anyone will tell you in Kilkenny that if you play well in training, you'll be on the team. Brian don't care about your club. Well, he does clearness in a sense that you play well with your club, but if you play well in training, you'll be on the team, and Brian gives everyone a chance. And I don't think any player can crib from the fact that if they're not on the team, it is not because they didn't get a fair chance, it's because they're not good enough.
Do you think you were a hard player to manage?
Yeah, I probably was. Compared to my brother Willie, I suppose, yeah, I was probably happy-go-lucky maybe, and often people compare myself and Willie, which we were two very, very different players. Willie was a much better hurler than me, so he was, and Willie probably trained a lot harder than I did. But if we were playing an All-Ireland final tomorrow morning and you wanted one of the two was to mark or Alan Gillan, I have no doubt Ollie Welsh should be asking me rather than Willie, because I was much better for tight marking, and I was much better for closing down people. And so like when I was playing cornerback, like as I said, I described myself as a bit like Mikey Butler and Cathal Barrett. The best way of marking a great forward is to get out in front of him, anticipate the play and get out in front of him. And that was what I used to do, whether it was Eugene Cloonan or Tom Dempsey or any of them former great players. I used to often in matches gamble, and a lot of the times it worked for me. And but myself and Willie, we speak regularly, and I'm in contact with a good lot of former players. And for Willie to be captain in 2000, and as I said, when I was captain in 93, it was a wonderful achievement for both of us and a wonderful achievement for our family. Like, and it is a moment we'll treasure until we die.
You obviously did your Laker Gale together a few years back, yourself and the brother. Would you say you're very close as brothers?
Like I wouldn't. Yeah, well, we would be close enough as brothers. Like, and and Willie's living in Mullavat as well. And as I said, we speak regularly and all that. Like, and we, what we used to always do, like when we were playing with Kilkenny, we used to meet up every Monday evening in the Glen Bar with Pat and Mickey Barn. They were the proprietors of the pub. Pat used to hurl with us below, and we used to have a sing-song every Monday evening, and Michael Field and Liam Welsh and the whole lot of us meet up. And I remember one good story a number of years later. Ollie Welsh said to us, he said, lads, I'm getting phone calls every Monday evening that the Glenmore lads are you're below the Glen Bar and you're drunk again. And we said, yeah, Holly, we were. Well, he said, lads, keep hurling the way you are. He said, and I'm going to go drinking with you. And that's how close we were that time. And yeah, we would be still reasonably close, yeah.
Right, that's interesting, because I was just going to ask, like, we had Tommy Welch on the show this week, who was talking about the pride he gets from one of his close friends or a brother winning in All Ireland, and he thinks TJ would get similar pride on Sunday if his brother lifts Liam McCarthy. Like, did you see him as just another teammate, or did you see him as the most special teammate because he is literally your brother?
Actually, I always thought he was the most special teammate because, at the time we were living at home, and with a lot of mercy, my mother and father, and my mother died in 2000, the year that Willie was captain, and that was I suppose a poignant moment for us, really. And any time if you thought you played bad, you could discuss it with one another, and we always had to, help out one another, and especially like with Glenmore, because I ended up full back with Glenmore for most of my career, and Willie ended up centre back. And while we were great friends in the club, we were still great friends with the county, and more often than not, like with the club, the two of us, a lot of the heavy lifting was left to the two of us. And and any time we did have problems with players, often we'd switch, and Willie, if I was struggling on a night with a player, Willie'd pick him up, or if he was struggling, and yeah, it helped us tremendously. And I know where Tommy was coming from. I said, the greatest moment I had was 93 when All Ireland, and certainly the second greatest moment was when Willie lifted a cup in 2000. And for two brothers in the one family to achieve that in a lifetime was I'd like to say, a remarkable achievement.
Do you talk about it much now? Do you reminisce much as brothers?
Not really, no. We tend to often look back with fond memories, and I suppose people will tell you shouldn't be looking back, but we'd always look back and remember the times, and remember, at the time when we used to all travel together and train, and a good friend of ours, Pat O'Kelly, had a minibus, and Pat used to pick us up every evening, and we go up training, and after a lot of matches, maybe on the way back, we might go in for 1 or 2 pints, and we'd have a sing song. And people often ask the question, Eddie, how good would yourself and Willie and Michael Phelan and them have been had you not be drinking? Like, I'd say we'd probably have been superstars, really, because at that time we were happy-go-lucky, and the highlight for us at the end of the week, or for the week, was the Monday Eve and the sing-song in the Glen Bar. That was the highlight for us, and it was, we look back on that and we cherish it with probably some of the greatest memories we had.
So would you be doing the sing-songs on the Monday night in the Glen Bar the week of a championship game?
No, we used to skip a couple of weeks for the championship. Right. Like, it was more so after the game rather than, you wouldn't rave with that like in Kilkenny, so you wouldn't. No, it was after the games.
Do you think you underachieved as a team then, if you're talking about that?
I'd say we did, yeah. We probably could have been better, but as I said, like, we have to give credit where credit is due. Like, some of the hurling there in the 80s and 90s, was I said, there were some wonderful teams out there that went on to win All Irelands, and at the time we came up against a great Offaly team. We come up against a Wexford team that went along and won the 96 All Ireland. We Clare were emerging at the time. No, we won 2 All Irelands out of 3, like, and we have to be grateful for that, and it was a hell of an achievement at the time, like. But had we maybe stayed out of Glen Bar, would we have won more? Certainly would have helped us to win more.
Yeah, but you probably have just as good memories now as a result of that. That team as a whole, are you close with them all? Like, I know you didn't do the Jubilee in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. No,
I didn't, but I kind of fell out with what would I say, I was the bad boy of Kilkenny hurling when I made a speech in 93, and I probably didn't help things myself, but I certainly didn't get much support from Kilkenny. I always said when I was going up the steps of Croke Park, I'd like to think I'd make it good for the players coming after me. I always felt like that the players weren't appreciated by Croke Park or by some of the county boards, and what better place was it to say it than when I was accepting the McCarthy Cup. I'd like to think that I made it good for all the players that are going forward now. They're getting much better expenses, they're getting much better medical assessments, and they're getting much better as regards the majority of them have company cars and all that. And while a lot of people said I caused trouble or I advocated professionalism, I never did. I never wanted to see hurling go professional. I don't think the GA could stand that, but I do feel like that the players should be rewarded a lot more. And certainly going forward, I'd like to see the winners of the Football All-Ireland, maybe the winners of the Hurling All-Ireland getting, say, 20,000 a man in vouchers, and I'd like to see the runners-up getting 15,000, and maybe the Munster finalists 10,000, the Leinster. To me, you know what I mean, the longer you go on the year, the more strain is putting on the body, the longer hours you're doing, there's a better chance you have of getting injured and all that. So I do think there should be a system there where you reward success and all that. And while I'm not advocating or anything that way, like for professionalism, I do think there's still plenty of room for improvement.
You on the steps of the Hogan stand, asked for a holiday fund for players. Basically, that was the gist of it. Well, what was the backlash like at that point?
Sure, like the backlash from all the players was a pat on the back, and from anyone involved in county panels, a pat on the back. But certainly the backlash from the Kilkenny County Board was dismal. I was treated very, very badly.
Like, what did they do, or what did they say?
I remember coming home on the train that night or the following evening, and I was said to me by one official, they said, "Eddie, you're a dead man walking, and you better, that your place will be in jeopardy next year," he said, over what you said there today. And because a lot of people in the county board could see no evil, hear no evil, or smell no evil, but I didn't care. I often said to people after me, if I'm the best cornerback, I said, in Kilkenny, you don't have the balls to drop me. And they wasn't, they backtracked a bit on it. And I remember a couple of years later, I got involved in an incident with my club, Glenmore, with a referee, and I got suspended for 6 months, and 5 of the months were for the speech I made in Croke Park.
Eoin, we're going to go back to some of the content that you've been getting over the last 2 days. How have you enjoyed the last 2 days? I know you do it each and every year, so it must be a part of the year you look forward to.
It's great. It's great to see kind of all the excitement around the different places, and like getting a little bit of variation this year as well. That it's not Limerick and Cork like last year. Obviously, Limerick trying to kind of dig a little bit deeper this year, when the excitement seems to be at a fairly similar level. Is a little bit challenging, but Kilkenny, it was good to see how Kilkenny people build up to an All-Ireland, because they're well used to it, and even though it's been a little while since they've been in an All-Ireland final, I definitely feel that they're still kind of the aristocrats, and that there's still more hype and still more novelty about the whole thing in Limerick. I think that's fair to say. Now, in fairness, we did literally bring like Kilkenny Elvis to you earlier on, and this entire place is like the most intense looking place that a GA fan ever has. So there are exceptions to that rule, but by and large, it is more chilled out in Kilkenny, I would say. Now, what was interesting, like we'll go back to Limerick again a little bit later on, but just to conclude on Kilkenny, I met the great Ballycallan chairman yesterday. Dave O'Neill is his name. We had a chat. So obviously he is the chairman of a hurling club in Kilkenny, but he comes from Limerick. So he's in a pretty interesting position this weekend. Here's how our conversation went.
Greg Ballycallan, I suppose, is where I'm domiciled at the moment. Dave O'Neill here. I'm chairman. It's an honour to be chairman of the Greg Ballycallan GA Club. And I suppose I'm originally from a lovely little place in County Limerick called Kilteely Drumkeen.
Right, so this has been a pretty interesting week for you, I'd imagine.
It has. It has. I mean, I suppose over the last few years, from 2014 really, I suppose, with minors, 21s, we had Billy Ryan playing in the minor final in 14. Eddie Brennan was managing the under-21 team in 17, and I suppose from there 19 and now. So yeah, it's good fun. It's good. It's banter. It's good crack.
When did you leave Limerick for Kilkenny?
I was ran out of it in 1986. I'm gone almost 36 years now, and they've never asked me back. So, and now I've been Ballycallan, or in Greg Ballycallan since. I'm Greg Ballycallan now 30 years, right. And they're trying to get rid of me in most of those 30 years, so right. I'm not really wanted anywhere.
This week, obviously, I presume as a chairman of a club, you've got a big responsibility to make sure that the Kilkenny people get the tickets and make sure that they're well supported. I mean, surely you're going to sort out some of your Limerick brethren?
No, on this occasion, I've had to do in the past, I suppose, I have a lot of contacts, but I suppose in 18 and for the last few years. But no, this year it's Kilkenny only. But no, it's wonderful. I mean, you know, it's hard to believe. I suppose I think is it 17 times in Brian Cody's era of what's it, 22 or 3 years, or 24 years now. It's Kilkenny are in a final, and it's the same buzz. I mean, it was palpable on the Sunday after the semi-final. We had a game in the club, and all the stewards were there, and we were all talking, and you just can sense the excitement, and it doesn't matter what age people are. It's an all-Ireland final. It's a very special time, and it never grows old.
Who do you cheer for?
I suppose I'm a Limerick man. I was born and bred, and I will die a Limerick man. But I'm heavily invested in Kilkenny GA as well. So I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet on Sunday. Yeah. You know, it's an unusual experience. But GA is, you know, my love of the GA was fostered in Kilteely, Drumkeen, and it's only been enhanced since I moved. I consider myself very fortunate to live in Great Ballycallan, so it's an occasion where I'll stay quiet on Sunday. But I'm looking forward to it. I think of all the All-Irelands, you know, in a world gone mad at the moment. I think this could be a very special All-Ireland. There'll be a lot of history. I saw the weather forecast last night. In Kilkenny, people still talk about the thunder and lightning All-Ireland from 1939. Maybe this one will be the sunburnt All-Ireland. Yeah. Because, but there's more than that. I suppose Limerick have an opportunity to do what's only been done 5 times in the last 100 years, and that's to win 3 in a row. And I suppose the common denominator number is 3, because if Kilkenny do it, they'll be winning number 37. So I think this one will be memorable. I'm certain that this will be a memorable All-Ireland. Something told me last Christmas, when I realised I was going to miss out, that it would be a Kilkenny-Limerick final. And I told all my Kilkenny friends, and now I'm reminding them of that. And I don't think any of them said, no, we won't make it, we won't get that. But that's Kilkenny. Yeah. Kilkenny's expectations to start of the year is, let's see what happens. You know, there's never claims, and you're having a drink over Christmas. No one stands up in the pub or stands up in a home or wherever you are and says, you know what, we'll win the All-Ireland next year. They keep it very, very low key. So, you know, I'm reminding them, by the way, for the last week, that most of them should be ashamed attending Croke Park, because they were saying Kilkenny wouldn't get to the final. My own personal opinion is I think the stars are aligned for a Kilkenny victory. Right. Genuinely, I do.
You kept on as chairman for another year?
Well, oh God, no, they're trying to get rid of me every year. I probably won't be invited to any family functions in Limerick going forward.